Hey y'all, thanks for stopping by. So I've been seeing a lot of stuff in my social media feeds about Warhammer 40k lately, which is great for me because I need the motivation to finish painting all of my Beast Snagger boys up before I can get the confidence to paint all my mechs. While I was hopeful, it was just people being positive about Space Marine 2 coming out. There's some weird culture war stuff going on, which seems to always be the case when you engage with Warhammer's online community. Not just with Space Marine 2, even though that is the most recent release, and it's been received pretty well. I like the customization part of it. You can really get in depth with changing the members of your squad up and using different paints on them. And I'm kind of hopeful someone just makes a game centered around that. Make it like a Dress to Impress where it's free to play, but you can buy in packs and stuff like that. Do it like an actual storefront where it's $3 or $4 for each pot of paint. As much as I hate microtransactions in games, it certainly would make them a lot of money to do it like that. These complaints started a few weeks ago, actually. There's a Warhammer Plus series out called The Tithes, and the second episode, The Harvest, featured the Adeptus Custodes, the sort of palace guards for the Emperor of Man. They're the best of the best, and a few months ago they had a retcon where they introduced female Custodes. They said that since the first 10,000 there have been men and women in the Adeptus Custodes. There was a little blurb that was in one of the codexes that caused all this nonsense, and I thought that would have been the end of the culture war stuff. But like moths to the flame, people can't help themselves. One person in particular who's bad about this stuff is someone named Veridark. She made a post on Twitter where she said the following. Listen, game devs and character designers. It's really not that hard to make a female character that looks half decent. And then she hit us with the whole hire fans, shrink the head and make her look prettier sort of thing, because that's what a female character is supposed to look like, right? And you'll notice she said game designers. This is what I mean by people who aren't really involved with 40k, just in it for the culture war stuff, because the Tides isn't a video game. It's a Warhammer Plus subscription based show. You can watch it over there if you want. I'm sure there's some clips floating around. The fighting in it looks great. You can really get an idea of why the Custodes are hard to balance for tabletop. One part of the show I did see some complaints about was that a Space Marine took orders from this female custodian, and that's just the chain of command. They are the superior unit. They do have to accept orders from their emperor and from custodians. So that seems like a non-issue complaint from, again, people who don't really care about the medium. They just use it for their culture war. The Tides wasn't the end of the whole Wokehammer conspiracy, and in fact, some people thought the release of that episode was in conjunction with Space Marine 2, so it would sort of balance out the subscription laws from when people got upset about a female custodian. Now, again, as I said at the beginning, Space Marine 2 has been received fairly well by most people. There are some complaints, again, from people who I would say aren't really involved with 40k, just in it for the culture war stuff. Notably was someone named Synthetic Man, who had the complaints that I saw from people years ago. There was a book about the Ultramarines, the sort of poster boy of the poster boys of the Space Marines, the ones who wear all the blue armor. And on the cover was a black Space Marine. This enraged some people because, for some reason, I guess they thought that the Ultramarines could only be white. And I don't know how much you know about the lore of 40k. I'm more of an orc player myself. But the Ultramarines were founded by a guy who's from a planet called Ultramar, which is basically space Rome. That's the best way to look at it if you want to compare it to something else. And if you know anything about Rome, at its height, it was huge. And there were lots of people in the Roman Empire from all corners of the world, or at least all corners of their conquered known world. So it's not unusual for you to have a Roman who was from North Africa, or a Roman who was from Eastern Europe. They look very different, but they're all Romans. The same could be said about the men of Ultramar and their kingdom, especially about the Ultramarines. But, all that aside, you have folks that were upset about your squad mates being a bald black man and an Asian man. You also have people who are upset that you were taking orders from a major that was a woman, which that is a weird complaint for anybody who plays Imperium of Man. They don't really care about your sexuality or your gender in the Imperium of Man. You're just there to serve. And, at least she got a command role of the billions of planets in the Imperium, of the trillions of lives that are burnt up in it. You'd be lucky if you're not turned into a door or a servitor. Or, hey, maybe at least you made it to adulthood and you aren't just a cherub. Things are really bad out there, but the whole of the Imperium doesn't exactly discriminate as to what sort of humans they're using. They just need bodies for the pyre, skulls for the skull throne, blood for the blood god, that sort of thing. If you're getting into 40K because of a video game, because of Space Marine 2, that's awesome. I hope you can find some more interest in it. The painting part of it is kind of expensive, I'm not going to lie, but that's a really great hobby to get into as well. Making something with your hands is great. And then, you get up enough of them, maybe you can play a game with a friend. Even if you don't play the tabletop, just getting into it for the joy of painting is wonderful. And I just hope you aren't led astray by the more insane members of the Warhammer online community. There's plenty of normal, cool people out there for you to talk to and engage with this stuff in a healthy, regular way. But this sort of culture war stuff follows around 40K like a hawk. I'm sure this stuff will happen again. And I guess until maybe we get more news about the Amazon show, or until we get dorks freaking out about a woman giving orders to a space marine, y'all have a good day.